Hello and welcome to this demonstration of Harmony 21 gaming features. Harmony is very well known to be the industry standards in terms of 2D animation. It is used globally to create animated content for television productions as well as feature films as well as gaming. One of the biggest advantages with Toon Boom Harmony is the fact that you can draw, paint, animate, modify your animation directly inside of Harmony. Now the gaming features let you create both frame by frame as well as cutout animation pipelines. We're going to take a look at both. On top of Harmony's native tools such as scene markers, the color management, the node and timeline views, Harmony Gaming also offers game-specific tools such as the skinning, the game bones, and the export to Unity. Before we look at what Harmony has to offer, we can discuss the way we can export the animations that you've created inside of Harmony so that you can use them into your various game engines. Now, one of the ways you can do this is to export one single sprite sheet, which will house all of the animations that you currently have within Harmony. This could look something like this, where you have every single pose of the animation that you've created in one single sheet. The big advantage of this, of course, is that you can create these animations using all of Harmony's tools. The big advantage as well is that you can import these sprite sheets into virtually any game engine. One slight drawback is the fact that maybe these would be quite heavy, and so that's something you would have to bear in mind. The other export that we have allows you to export the sprite sheets in exploded view. For instance, here we've got all the various exploded views exported in the resolution of our choice. And so you can see the head, for example, in the various positions that you have created for your character, exported separately. The major advantage about this is the fact that this is an easy integration and direct export with Unity. You can use our cutout animation tools, you can use our skinning and game bone system, as well as it allows for fast iterations and small, efficient file exports. Now let's take a look at what we can do within Harmony. In this session, we're going to take a look at the drawing tools and animation tools that will allow you to create your own content. After that, we'll look at the pipeline integration. Let me start by bringing some templates from the library and show you the different drawing tools. Let's start with bitmap. So when you are on a bitmap layer, you have access to the bitmap brush. The bitmap brush will allow you to draw directly onto a canvas. It will also allow you to change the tool properties of that specific brush. If you go into the bitmap brush properties, you will have access to various types of textures, which are there by default. But you can also create your own texture either inside of Harmony or outside, and you can then import it so that you can make it part of your brush presets. You can then save these presets and then export it so that all of your team members can use the same brushes. Everything on the presets can be changed, anything from the size to the pen tilt sensitivity, as well as the size properties such as the tilt, the speed of which you draw with the brush. You can change the hardness, spacing. All of this can be actually customized. Moving on to the vector engine now, we have two types of vector tools. We've got the brush and the pencil. So starting with the brush is like the bitmap brush, has access to various types of settings. To start with, let's go with the solid vector brushes. The solid vector brushes has a variety of presets also available for size, sensitivity of the tilt, of the pressure, of the hardness. You can change the spacing, You can change the smoothing, you can have automated smoothing, as well as also the ability to save all these presets so that you can make use of them. When you are ready to draw, you'll notice, for example, that these lines have a contour to them because these are brushes. So you can go and change the contour and modify the shape of the line. But because it is a brush doesn't mean that you can't also change the center line. And so the center line editor on the brush will allow you to change the direction of this line to any direction you need. The vector brush tool also comes with texture. In the tool properties of the brush, you can go and change the brush type from solid to textured vector. For example, in this example of a bat over here, you can see that her lines are textured. And you can see there the very nice texture on the outside lines. But even though it's got texture, these lines are actually vector lines. And so you can go and change the shape of the line exactly the same as you would with solid vector lines. That will give you a lot of options for your game content. Moving on to the next vector tool, we have the pencil line. Now the pencil line is probably one of the most used lines in Toon Boom Harmony, and that's thanks to its flexibility. For instance, the pencil line will allow you to draw and with a certain size, and then you can select the lines and change the size of the lines at any time after it's been drawn. So for example, if I wanted to make this character's line a bit thicker, I can just select all the lines at the same time and make them thicker. This is something that could be very useful if, for example, the character needs to be quite far away from the camera. You can also change the taper of the lines. So for instance, if I wanted to make this line from thick to thin, as opposed to with some thickness in the middle, I can just select the line and change the taper at any time. And then just scroll through the various taper presets that I have set for myself. Again, these can be saved and exported and shared. The pencil line also comes with texture, which means that you can also change the texture itself after it's been drawn. So for example, if I wanted to use this type of line, or dots or dashes, I can just change to any texture I want. Once I've changed the textures, I can still have access to changing the size, the width of the lines, or the taper. In terms of drawing your characters from scratch, Harmony comes with all of the bells and whistles that will allow you to create your drawing effectively. In this example, we've got a rough drawing of the bat, and we are going to draw a cleanup version on top of it. So I can use a new layer, put my light table on, and choose the tool that I want to use to draw. I'm going to draw with a pencil line, and I'm also going to make use of my animation disk, which will allow me to really turn the canvas to wherever I want so I can start drawing. So for instance, if I draw like this on top, I'll have a better angle for me to use. Of course, if I have an issue with my lines being too wiggly like this, there's a lot of different options for me to use to make my line a lot smoother. One of those options is the stabilizer. I could use either the average setting. I can then start drawing, and as you can see, my line is a lot smoother for me already. Another type of tool that I can use is the pulled string. The pulled string is very practical because not only does it make the line very, very smooth, but I can also stop and change direction at any time. And that allows me to really create perfectly smooth lines. All of these tools over here, rectangle, ellipse, line, polyline, all of those are also pencil lines. And so they all come with a lot of different options as well, such as, for example, the line with the ability to curve the line while I'm busy drawing it. So for example, I have the option to curve it like this. Now, drawing directly inside of Harmony is one option. The other option is, of course, to import your drawings from another source. If you go into the File Import menu, you'll see a whole lot of different options there. You can import directly from a scanner if you have drawn something on paper. While you're doing that, you are also able to vectorize your drawings. You are also able to import images from various sources, such as PSD, JPEG, PNG. The big advantage on bringing in a PSD Adobe Photoshop file is that you can keep the layers. So you can keep the drawings as bitmaps, or you can also convert them to vector if you need to. But essentially, you'll be able to also keep all the layers separately. I've done that over here, where I'm going to just bring one of the drawings that I previously imported and saved as a template into the library. I've got Luna, the character, with all of her layers on the timeline, and you can see these are all the different parts that were created inside of Adobe Photoshop and imported directly inside of Harmony as bitmaps. Toon Harmony will allow you to animate in various styles of animation, starting with frame by frame, also called paperless animation, all the way to cutout or puppet animation, of course, which we will take a look at a little bit later. But first, let me bring in a template here, which will illustrate how easy it is to animate with paperless. Let's take a look at this animation here first. You can see the bat running, jumping onto the gems. At the beginning of the animation, you can see that she has not been painted yet. Obviously, this would be the part where you would draw your various poses for your animation. And you can do so either in the camera view so that you can see all of the environment, or you can go focus into the drawing view by selecting one of the layers that you would like to focus on. In here, you can of course make use of all of the drawing tools that we looked at previously, whether being bitmap or vector, brush or pencil, textured or solid. And you can also make use of the onion skin, for example, to show you your next and previous drawings. That is, if you've created a new drawing over here, for example, and you would like to see what your previous drawings looked like, so that you can anticipate the animation. The onion skin tool has an advanced onion skin tab over here, where you can select exactly which frames you would like to see the onion skin of, as well as changing the opacity of the various onion skins. Now, for each drawing that you draw in Harmony, you have access to multiple layers. For the gaming export and for the opportunity to use the Unity export, you can only make use of the line and the color art. For the single sprite sheet export, you can use, of course, as many art layers as you would like, such as the overlay and the underlay as well. So in this example, you have the line on the line art layer, and the colors will then come onto the color art. You can, by default, create a color layer automatically. As you draw onto your lines, your color art will also be drawn automatically, if that's how you would like it to work. When it comes to coloring, of course, we have the ability to create as many palettes as you want to. Each element or character in your scene could have its own color palette, and inside of that color palette, you can have as many colors as you would like. When it comes to coloring, we've got different types of paint tools. The paint, paint unpainted, repaint, unpaint. We've got the ability to also draw with the strokes directly. So if I use the paint tool, I can simply just choose the color I want to use and start painting inside of my paint areas. Of course, I may not know exactly where those paint areas need to be, so I can make use of the model view. This is where you could draw the first or paint the first frame and use that frame as a model. Or you can also make use of a model template that may have been done by yourself earlier or by another team member. So now that we've got a model, we don't have to refer back to the palette again. We can simply pick the color that we want to use and start painting directly into the frame. So here I can see exactly where things are. I can use the colors as and when I need them. I can make use of various types of tools, such as the Paint Unpainted tool, which will allow me to go a lot faster. For example, that tool can stop me from having to be very precise as to where I need to apply the paint. So for instance, here I can use this particular one to paint those two areas exactly at the same time. Same for the scarf and the cape. I can just draw a line across it and it will paint those areas for me straight away. And as you can see, just like that, my frame has been painted. Not forgetting the little tooth, and we've got, oh no, wait a minute, we are missing somewhere a shoe. And that's how you can paint very, very effectively in Harmony. Of course, in this case, as it could be the case for puppet animation, there are some other drawings or other frames that I need to paint as well. With Toon Boom Harmony, it can be very efficient to paint multiple frames at the same time. So to do that, I'm going to use the onion skin and extend the range of my onion skin to all of my previous frames and also all of my next upcoming frames. And so I'm going to use that to paint the ears of the bat on all the frames at the same time. So to do that, I'm going to use the Paint Unpainted tool and also use the Apply to All Drawing option. Make sure I'm on the color art and making sure that I'm selecting the color that I want to use. And so I'm going to use the onion skin to draw a line across all of the drawings that include my ears. And if I do that, as you can see, it's painted my ears on multiple drawings. Of course, some of them may have spilt over to other areas, but it's a lot easier for me to correct that than to actually draw every single one frame one by one. Now let's take a look at a painted version of our little bat. And you can see here that from this frame to this frame, she's now about to land on the gems over here. So let's play this animation from there to there. In this case, I might want to change the colors. To change the colors is extremely easy. The reason for that is thanks to the color ID that is applied for each color that we have chosen and created inside the palette. So for example, in real time, if I would like to change any specific color, let's say for example, we want to change the scarf color to something else, you simply have to go into the color itself and change it. Now, that color, thanks to the color ID system, will then identify all the areas where this color has been used and change it on the fly. Now, this can be used for many, many uses. First of all, to correct a color that maybe you didn't want to use, or also maybe to create some different skins for your character. But as you can see, it is very, very easy to change a specific color or even a bunch of colors if you needed to. While I am on the animation of the scarf, I also wanted to talk to you about the drawing substitution window. For example, if I select the cape loop over here, and I go into the drawing substitution window, I can have access to all the drawings that you have created to make that loop. And at any time at all, I can go and select a different drawing to expose. And this will allow me at any time to show whichever drawing I would like to use. The drawing substitution window is very practical because you can see all of your drawings in thumbnail mode. You can also rename these drawings directly from here. You can reorder this if you want to, and you can just select the drawing that you would like to use at this moment in time. Now let's take a look at another style of animation, namely cutout animation, or also called puppet animation. This technique can be very useful for gaming, especially taking full advantage of our gaming SDK and export to Unity. In this instance, we have Luna, who is a puppet character. And being a puppet character, we have the different parts of the body separated so that we can then access them and animate them all separately. We've also created a hierarchy for Luna, where, for example, her hand is attached to the arm, and when the arm is moving, then the hand will be moving with it. This style of animation also requires rigging, which can be done on the timeline or in the node view. Now, the node view is possibly one of the most powerful aspects or tools in Toon Boom Harmony. It is a non-linear nodal view which allows you to organize your scene, because all of these parts on the scene are made up of different nodes. So for example, you can see the head over here, eyes, the nose, the mouth. Every single element has an individual node. Now the node view can be used for rigging purposes. So for example, if you have the hand, so let's have a look at the right hand over here. The right hand is attached to what we call a peg. This is where the animation information will be housed. And the hand is attached via cable to the arm, which in turn is attached to the full body. It's a very simple rig, but very effective indeed. A very useful feature in Harmony 21, especially for gaming, is the scene markers. As you can see on the timeline, I have a whole bunch of markers at the top there in different colors. We also have a scene markers tab, which allow you to access the scene markers directly. If I click on one of them, let's say the idle one at the top there, you can see the playheads just directly positioning themselves so that I can play between start 14 and end 41, for example. So it gives me the ability to name the different animations on my timeline, separate them, start and stop at different times, and also set a duration if I want to. So if I wanted to go, for example, to the collision receiver at the end there, I can just click on there and play the animation like that, and it will loop that specific animation. This is very useful, especially when it comes to the export to Unity, which we will take a look at a bit later. One of the biggest advantages in using Toon Boom Harmony for your content are the animation tools themselves. In Cutout, we have the characters in different parts, and to move an element of that character, you would select that element, position it, and set a keyframe. For instance, in this character, you see she is moving up and down like that, back and forth, and her arms are moving up and down. You wouldn't necessarily rig the hands and the fingers separately so that you can animate them. However, what you would do is draw different hand positions for her and then access those positions whenever you want to. To do that in Harmony is very easy. You just use the drawing substitution window. So at any time you want in your animation, while you're doing some keyframe motion animation, you can change the hand. And as you can see there, for example, if I choose this hand, it will always follow the arm. So wherever that arm goes, the hand will go with it. For example, you can add a prop to her hand, like she's holding vinyl. You can add different hand positions, as I said. So that will also allow you to enrich your library and change whichever hand you want and expose it at any point in your animation. Another tool that you can use for the cutout animation process is the game bone deformer. Now, game bones are very practical for very obvious reasons. If I select this torso, for example, and show you the game bone on it, you'll have access to the controls, and you can then change the shape of this specific drawing to however you want. You can, of course, set the various joints in place and the placement of the bones so that it can move in the way you want. This will stop you from having to draw multiple drawings to represent the multiple positions that this character may have. You can also display multiple bones at the same time, such as the ones that we have on her feet over here. And so you can animate the feet separately using these game bones. Now, adding a game bone is very, very easy. So I'm going to add a game bone on her arm. All I need to do right here is to access the game bone controls, select the right type of deformation, and I just need to create a point there, and a point here. And there's my joint with my two bones. And all I need to do is now test it and see how it works. Now, what's great with deformation is that I can stretch and squash my drawings however I want to. Of course, I then need to make sure that the arm, wherever the arm moves, also takes the hand with it. And so to do that, I simply need to go into my node view, look for the hand. Here's my deformation, currently on the arm only. But I could make sure that the deformation also affects the hand. And so when I move, it will also move my hand with it. What's also great is that you can reset your position at any time and start from scratch. And if you don't like what the deformation is doing, that's absolutely fine. You can always unplug it, delete it, and your animation is, your character is as good as new. That's one of the powers of the node view, which is completely non-linear and non-destructive. Now, a few moments ago, I mentioned the fact that you can change multiple colors at the same time. And this leads into my next subject. If we go back to our palettes over here, you can see that Luna has a whole bunch of different palettes, including a palette which I called Luna Night. This palette was cloned and made darker so that every time Luna goes into, for example, into the night or into a darker room, she could be using this palette. And when she's outside in the sun or somewhere lighter, she can be using this palette. This is one of the things that you can do with skins, where you can change the various colors of your palette in order to represent different types of clothing. But not just. The skinning process allows you to change at any point in Unity, for example. You can change the appearance of your character and change to different skins. So for example, if I want to play this animation of Luna walking, I would like in different parts of the game that she's dressed differently with different types of clothes. So I can just set up my skinning system over here to have different types of clothing or objects that she's carrying. So for example, if I were to create a blue skin over here for her, it will change her entire outfit to a blue outfit with a heart as opposed to a skull. The animation remains exactly the same, it's just changing the skin. Same here, if we wanted to go to green, for example, you'll see that the skin will change to a different outfit altogether. So it's that simple. It's something that you can set up directly inside of Harmony and that you can then export to Unity later. So now that everything is done, you have created your various animations, you have created several skins to be able to interchange the skins together, you have created game bones, you have created your color palettes. It's time for you to export. Now, we're going to go through the two types of exports that we have available for Harmony 21. Those are the export to spreadsheets, as well as the export to easel.js. Now, if you're using the frame-by-frame animation technique, you may want to use easel.js. That is a very simple type of export, but it will allow you to export a huge spreadsheet with every single pose of the animations that you have created. In fact, you can use the export to easel.js with any technique of animation that you want. Even if you have multiple deformers, if you have frame-by-frame animation, whatever animation that you've created will be exportable using the export to easel.js. Bearing in mind that this will create a huge sprite sheet with a lot of data, And so there might be some challenges in terms of the size of the current export. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, is choose a path and a name. You can, if you want to, export multiple clips. So for example, if you've created multiple versions of your animation where you have version 1 where they're running somewhere different, version 2 where maybe it's at night, version 3 where maybe they're wearing Halloween costumes. So if you've saved your animations in various Harmony scenes, you can actually export the various versions of the scenes in one single export. Of course, you have to also choose a display and then choose the width, the maximum width and height of your spreadsheet. One important factor is that you can choose the sprite resolution in which you would like to export your sprites. You can choose multiple types of resolution that will fit various formats that your games need to be in. So for example, you can put an iPad format, an iPhone format. You can add another one, which could be, for example, PlayStation or Xbox, and choose the right width and height for that. And then you're ready to export. The other type of exporter available in Harmony 21 is the export to sprite sheet, which it is the one that we're going to use for exporting to Unity. So in this example, we have the asset path again, the asset name. You can change and update the existing clips. This one is a new export, so this list is empty at the moment. But if you've already exported some animations from this specific scene, then it will remember the existing clips. And so you could use the scene markers, of course, but if you just wanted to update your animation, but simply adding a new animation, you could go back to Harmony at any time and then just make sure that you're adding to your list. Going back down the list, obviously, you can change all the different settings over here, including the unit scale that you want to use, basically between Harmony and Unity. Most likely, using a 10 fields, 1 unit would be sufficient, but that's something you can play around with and see which scale works best for you. Into the sprite sheet preferences, you can change a whole bunch of settings over here, including whether you want to reuse frames that are very similar or not. So in order to save in terms of space for the sprites that you're going to export, if some of the frames are very similar, the software will know exactly which ones those are and can just reuse frames instead of creating new sprites. And then, of course, you can change the sprite resolutions once again, where you choose which format you want to export all your various sprites, bearing in mind that in this export, every single element in your rig will be exported as a separate sprite. And so the resolutions will be correct for every one of those exports as well. We are ready to export. You should now be ready to go into Unity and import the exported packages. So let's have a look and see what it looks like. Once you've done your import inside of Unity, you will be able to create your Harmony project, set the output path, as well as choose the frame rate that you would like to work in, and then import all of the assets. This is also where you're going to be able to do the updates if you decide to add more animations or more things to this current project, and so you can re-import all the new updated features of your project directly into here. While in Unity, you can quickly see that all the animations that we have created in Harmony are under the .anim format, which is a proprietary file format for Unity. And as we do the import, it also creates the animator controller for us, which means that we can double click on the animator controller and have all the animations play according to the sequence that you have chosen and the behaviors that you have chosen. As you can see here, we've got all of the individual animations already laid out. I've already previously set some behaviors for the animation to go from one to the other. I'm just going to set a couple of last transitions here so that we can make the whole thing loop back to idle once it's finished with the latest animation. So from here, I just need to go back to the game window and play my animations, and you will see that it will go through all of the animations as stipulated by the animator, and it goes back to idle. The other thing that I wanted to mention in here as well is looking at the settings that you have available to you within Unity. The most important part here is the Harmony renderer, which allows you to choose from a variety of the resolutions that you've set for the export. So here we only have two. We have 512, which you can probably make out that it is a little bit more blurry than the 1024. You can also change the color of the object if you wanted to. So you can go and set a different color like that. So the character can also have specific set colors if you want to directly from here. You can choose the current frame of the animation, so you can choose a different frame if the first one doesn't suit you. And very importantly, this is where you're also going to be able to change the different skins that you have created. Now remember, we've created different outfits for Luna. So here you can have the different groups. For example, we've got the eyeliner, we've got the body, the legs, as well as the different skins available for those different parts of the body. So for example, you could mix and match them. So let's say we want her eyeliner to be green and we want her body to be green as well, but we want to keep her boots or legs purple. And you just need to switch from one or the other. You can even play the animation and look at how the skin updates within the animation itself. So if you wanted to maybe rather try the blue, it will in real time change on all the animations without affecting, of course, how the animation looks. And lastly, all of these features here can be accessed via code. So if you would like to go deeper into what you can do within Unity, you can always access every single one of these via code. In conclusion, we saw that Toon Boom Harmony will allow you to create world standard animated content for your games. Thanks to the export to Unity, you have access to specific game features towards Harmony for an easy integration and direct export to Unity. You also have access to all of our animation tools to create any type of animation for any type of game engine.